We would ask and we would request residents contact the Emergency Operations Center beginning now. If you are a resident that does not have transportation and you do not have family or friends or neighbors or social groups in which you are able to get transportation set up through, contact the Emergency Operations Center. We're open 24 hours at 985-783-5050 and talk to the emergency coordinator on duty. General game plan is that after we issue the evacuation order, after the parish president makes the evacuation order known public, is that we will begin to pick up persons who without transportation, assisted evacuation, 4 hours after the order is issued. We will be then taking the evacuees to be staged at the West Bank Bridge Park, and then eventually to be transported to Avoyelles Parish. If you are a resident who needs to be part of this assisted evacuation plan, we're urging you to have a collar. This is the assisted evacuation with pets. Let me clarify. That didn't sound exactly right. We're not going to put a collar on you. But your pets, we will. The assisted evacuation plan with pets will require everyone to have a collar, a name tag, leash, pet carrier, food, 3+ days, water, and I don't have it on here, but I'm just noticing now, you should have your rabies vaccination as well. Okay? So in addition to your collar, name tag, leash, pet carrier, food, water, have your name, also have the rabies shot as well. What we call this is what we call a point-to-point evacuation plan with Avoyelles Parish, as I mentioned earlier. This is just an aerial photo showing the area in which residents will be taking to. I'll just point out quickly here, this is a 4-H area, livestock area, which is just fantastic for our pets. We could probably hold up to close to 800 pets within this area here, and we got the adjacent football field behind, and we have this large gym and this school and this other complex here. So we have a complex of both a middle and elementary school here in which we can evacuate our residents to. Now I want to remind you that the evacuation has changed as well, because we haven't done this before, though we have planned for it since Hurricane Katrina. The Department of Recreation and Community Services and other appointees by the parish president will be evacuated to Marksville, to this particular area, to run a parish shelter, but within another parish. We'll be operating a shelter for our assisted evacuation residents. We'll be operating the shelter through the help of many different agencies here locally, including the Public Works and Recreation, and there's different departments. I am a little bit nervous about this. It's a very difficult thing to drill and exercise. We did do some drills and exercises last year. We've had many meetings. I probably have taken up more staff minute meeting time than probably any other department director in discussing this. But it's a very, very complicated. It's planned because it requires us to literally go to another community away from here, and to be able to have the ability to feed and house 800 of our citizens, transport them there, take care of their needs, in addition this year, along with their pets. Now the reason why we're opting out of the state plan is because the state cannot identify to us ahead of time shelters in which the residents can go to with their pets. The state will have pet shelters, and it will have shelters for residents, but it's not very clear that the state will have shelters in which the residents, the evacuees, and their pets can be together. The actual intent of Act 615 was so that when we go to someone's home who may be reluctant to evacuate because their pets aren't allowed, is to give that person an avenue in which they can travel and evacuate with their pets. And it's a very important part of getting the parish clear and getting residents to a safe area. So we chose to take this route. It's a lot of responsibility on the parish. It's a lot of cost, potentially. Just in meals, we're calculating in addition of in excess of $16,000 per day for just the meals that it takes. Hopefully we would be under the emergency declaration, and that we would be able to recoup at least 75% of these costs. But we still think it's the best absolute plan to do this. And this cannot be done without the assistance of the Sheriff's Department and the school board particularly, with their buses and bus drivers. And when we talk about incentive pay, all I can tell you is that you need those employees then. Believe me, you need your employees to assist you in this particular endeavor. Talk briefly about the evacuation routes. And I want to make sure everyone understands our new public information officer has done an outstanding job of getting information out. And we also are planning for the first time a particular brochure that's being offered by the parish president's office in explaining the evacuation routes and the preparedness items that residents need to know. And they can turn to our website at stcharlesgov.net for further information. And we will be having that brochure there electronically and other information throughout the hurricane season when you go to the parish president's webpage. To discuss briefly the recommended evacuation routes, we are telling residents do not take I-10 in St. Charles Parish. If you live on the East Bank, in general, we would tell you to take US 61 Airline Highway to evacuate. If we're advising you to get on I-310, it would be actually to go southbound and then on to LA 3127. If you live on the West Bank, in general, we will be telling you to go ahead and take LA 3127. There's about 60,000 residents tops here within the parish. We won't have a big impact on the transportation. 3127 can certainly handle the traffic that we would be putting on it. US 61 can handle our traffic. It is the better and preferred evacuation routes. These are recommended. You can certainly take whatever route that residents feel like they would like to take. But in my best professional opinion, knowing the trends in evacuation and also the decisions that are being made in other parishes, I would recommend our residents stay off of I-10. One of the other issues that really have an impact on us is that when we get to the 30-hour timetable, which I had shown earlier, I-310 northbound will be closed, and you will not be able to access I-310 by going I-310 northbound. Also, once contraflow begins, it's very difficult to get out on I-10 eastbound. It's very difficult to get onto the causeway, and it's even very difficult to get up to I-55. So, and particularly I-59 is almost impossible unless you take the smaller streets in and around Jefferson Parish to maneuver properly. So I would just warn residents, our recommendation, US 61, LA 3127. Just to switch gears a little bit, but staying in the arena about vulnerability and issues that we have. One of the things that your Department of Emergency Preparedness is responsible for is emergency management. And a very basic building block, or the very basics of an emergency management program, is a good understanding of hazard and vulnerability. And we have a hazard and vulnerability analysis here in St. Charles Parish. In that hazard and vulnerability analysis, in general, we take a look at potential for loss of life, loss of property. I can tell you our top hazards, as you see here, are rainfall, flooding, and hurricane. Okay? Though we don't lose a lot of lives in rainfall flooding, the potential is there. In fact, after Hurricane Katrina hit over the last 30 years, the biggest loss of life with hurricanes actually was through rainfall flooding associated with hurricanes. Still, historically, like we saw in Katrina, the largest potential loss of life is through hurricane storm surge. But when you take a look at the flood situation, the rainfall flooding that we're experiencing, and I've mentioned this before to this council, but I'm going to say it again because it's important to get the message across and just to really talk about our true vulnerability. We are 8th on the list within Louisiana from 1978 to May of 2007. We have almost $100 million in just flood claims through the flood insurance program. And not every resident has flood insurance. These are just the claims through the flood insurance program. Louisiana has suffered the most flood losses in the United States with a total of greater than $15 billion in this period of time. When you take a look at St. Charles Parish versus other states and territories, we have claims in dollars that exceed 32 other states and territories if we took St. Charles Parish as a state alone. We would exceed flood losses of 32 additional states, okay? Very, very important to understand that we have historically had a great deal of flooding, and I think we're all well aware of that. But I want to get to some other things as we start talking. This council has been very good about listening and determining policy, and I want to bring some things forth. Now, this is some 2005 data. I want to tell you that 40% of the homes in this parish do not carry flood insurance or are underinsured. That's still a large amount. This may have improved, and I don't have the new data to tell you, but as we sat at the end of 2005, that was the situation. 40% of the homes underinsured or not insured at all, and less than 50% of businesses carry flood insurance. That's a big issue for us, because unless you get federal aid, we're not getting money. It's very difficult to recover from a storm or disaster when you do not have monies.